Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
So what's going to happen is part of your job as a freelancer is to really learn the ins and outs of using Upwork for your benefit and maximizing its usage. One of the things that comes with that is actually educating your client on how to maximize usage of the platform too. And I've had great experience working with new clients on the platform, and especially when I was first starting, we were learning it together. But in some ways, it will be up to you to educate that client if they haven't had time to do that themselves. And some of that can come into just guiding them through maybe a milestone process, setting up fixed price contracts. And that allows you guys to both negotiate, but it becomes very important at the end of contracts. So when we're talking about JSS, making sure to guide them that the best practice on Upwork is to have the client be the one to close a contract, because that will cue them to give the feedback. Of course, you can end the contract at any time, or if they stop being in communication, you know, it's still a good practice for you to close that out within, say, a month or two. But if at all possible, use that communication that you have with the client, guide them in the process, educate them as you're moving through, and that will help as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So one little more deep dive on this is just working with different clients to get your score, right? Working with at least three distinct clients. You're always going to want to deliver excellent work, and you know, just some general stats here on JSS. Again, we'll share this out so you can take a look at this deeper. And there's also Help Center articles and other things on this if you wanted a deeper dive. So as it relates to top rated, right? Part of that journey can be then moving into this badge, which you definitely want to work towards, which is having that above 90% job success score, having that first hire more than 90 days ago, earning $1,000 in the last 12 months, again, 100% completed profile and your up-to-date status. And this really starts to qualify you for some of these other special webinars. You might get reached at, our teams internally might reach out to you for some of our enterprise and some of our other jobs that they see who are recruiting internally for some of our enterprise clients. So, and not to mention increased support and other pieces like that. So this is a great thing to move towards, and it's different in every field, but this is our top rated program. So, and please, if you have questions, ask, and we'll address as many as we can. So what I want to do now is that's kind of the general overview. And now I want to start diving into profiles themselves, right? So what is a 100% completed profile? What does it mean to have a good profile, right? So we've pulled a couple profiles, and again, this is just, this is our personal opinion of what we've seen. It's not the end all be all. It's not the only way to do things. We just figured to be a little better to just give a little bit deeper dive into what we think is general best practice for profiles. So in general, having very specific skills and services that you offer, make it very simple for your client who, when you've applied and sent a proposal out, can say, okay, here's what they do. Team manager, operations support, customer service rockstar. Here's a deeper dive. Here's my personal philosophy. Here's this and that. So like allowing them to keep clicking down as much as they want to learn and just keep getting more information. But right away, they should be able to click on it. They should be able to know what you do. And of course, you know, moving towards that high JSS, getting top rated, and you know, you can see all of the other pieces here. So having a professional overview, being really specific about what you do, having a professional photo, looking at your rate, depending on as you get more clients, you want to increase your rate, and we want you to increase your rate. So keep reassessing that. Every job's a little bit different. So just because you have a rate up there doesn't mean it's not negotiable. Like everything is, you're running your business. So take a look at that. So here's what I want to do, just to kind of make this come alive a little bit. If you're a client and you want to hire an executive assistant and you look at this profile, I want you to think to yourself, what story is this telling you, right? You've clicked on this, you see executive assistant, and you start to look around. Does this profile tell you what you need to know? What kind of projects do you think this freelancer specializes in? What skills make this executive assistant stand out from everyone else, the many other people on the platform? How do you feel about the skills test, right? So I have some extra time to pick up more work. I'm good with computers and speak well. Feel free to ask about questions. I want to start a business with my husband. And that's it. What kind of executive, like what, we are not getting a lot of information here. And they're showing a skills test on their profile that's below average. There's a little note, you don't have to show the results of your skills test. So if you score poorly on one, you don't have to show it. Now, in this case, somebody who's given us very little information, they've actually not written correct grammar, and they're showing the skill that they want to do, they're showing a test that shows them below average. Regardless of like how good the test is, they're still showing that. So, would you hire this person? I probably would not. So how about this person? So this freelancer, let's track it through their whole thing, right? So first of all, we see they have 100% job success. They're top rated and they've done 32 jobs, right? So like this person's worked on the platform before, their availability is up to date. And then right off the bat, right away, we see, okay, they do C-level executive assistant, customer service specialist. Okay, so they've got skills listed here. They've got their experience level, what they've done, more specifically what they've done, a little bit of personal philosophy about what they're doing, and they have a great call to action, you know, like here's my philosophy. What can I do to make your job easier? And here's some of the deeper things on what that person was doing, right? And you know, as we go down, we'll be able to see some more of the feedback, public feedback. So like, as you can see here, the difference between this one and this one is very different. You get to control all of this, right? This is something you get to control. So I would say investment in this area is probably worth it. 100% profile completeness, you know, can look very different. So I think this is a good example of what to go towards. So here are some ways to work towards that. Just to be more specific, add a testimonial from a client after you've done a job. Have them write something for you. It's great on the public feedback, or they write you that, and then in your profile you say, one of my very satisfied clients said, bam, right? Like you're showing that you meet the client's needs, and it's another way to help as you're getting your job success score to showcase that you have worked on this platform, or you know that you have experience that shows that you can do this job. Show the skills test, the ones that you did well on. An introduction video, if you can and you have the option and the ability to, it's a great call. That way the client sees you, they put a face to your name, they see your English level, or whatever, you know, language they're looking for. And you can also use the resources that are available to you here. The Upwork blog, hiring headquarters community, we'll put some links up for that in a little while. Yeah, those are some great things to focus on. So agencies, right? So you might be asked to join an agency. You might want to start an agency. You might hire an agency. There's a lot of journeys that you can go on with agencies. So I do want to talk about them for a moment, because at some point in your Upwork career, you will probably come across them. So as it relates to journeys as a freelancer, you may start to get jobs and get more successful. And there's a point in which you might start turning down work. And at that point, you can say to yourself, well, I'm just going to send these jobs to friends, or I'm going to just say, no, I don't do these jobs anymore. Or you might say, hey, I want to start an agency and farm this work or have this work subcontracted out so that I'm now making money and maybe I'm now managing and I'm not doing as much of the work anymore. I'm hiring other people to do it for me. Or I'm having somebody manage the agency and I'm doing work. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that. You're already running a small business. You're already running kind of an agency of sorts in that you're your own founder, CEO, project manager, operations manager, accountant for your business as a freelancer. But like, there's also ways to make this a little bit larger, right?
Word to the wise on this one, just before we move over.
Yeah, go.
Word to the wise on this one is be very honest with yourself about your skill set and also your passions and your reason for wanting to do the type of work that you do. As a freelancer, you get a major benefit in being able to control what your daily life looks like in a lot of ways that you can't do when you're working full-time for a company. Of course, that comes with a little bit more perceived risk because you're taking that on as your own business. But something that I do see happen often, and that's not just in freelance, that's in any sort of business development, is somebody's very passionate about the work that they do and the skills that they have and are very good in hands-on work with that. Now, once you get into running a business and having staff, running an agency, it takes a lot of self-reflection and honesty with yourself to know whether or not you're most productive in that HR role, in business managing, in talking with clients and setting up proposals and finding contracts, or are you better at doing the skill or a mix of those things? That honesty with yourself is going to help you target whether you should hire somebody to be a business manager for you and maybe take on the negotiations and the proposals, or whether you should hire people to take on the skill work, or some combination thereof. But think about it before you jump in. Plan it, because this can grow very fast, and all of a sudden you've got a pipeline of clients and you just don't have the hours to do it, or you're working like crazy. Never lose sight of that balanced quality of life while you're there, and have a plan now so that you can start directing and networking and finding people to help you, and knowing what that would look like in the future if you wanted to grow.
Awesome. You know, and on top of that, you know, the business part of running your, you know, your own business, what you're doing, you might be able to connect with an agency who can take care of some of that, you know, where you might have the skills to join an agency. There's two ways you can do that. And that way they're finding the jobs and you're just delivering. So that's kind of, that can also happen depending on which field you're in. There are two types I think it's worth noting. Exclusive contractors, it means that all of a sudden you're like a professional sports player, as it were. You only get to work with that agency. You wouldn't be able to take projects outside of that. And then there's the non-exclusive where you're connected to an agency, but you could still take your own contracts on. So like it's more a free agent, as it were. So, you know, why might that benefit you? That way, these large projects, like a full stack development where you need the whole suite of things built and programmed, that might be somewhere where clients want to hire an agency because one person can't do it because there's multiple business lines. So, or they might need something fast and then they need 10 graphic designers or something like that. So, scale is the key word here. As expansion, as you take on more people or as the clients take on more people or need bigger projects or things like that, that's where agencies come in. So here's what you're going to kind of see. You're going to see this name of an agency. This is a really good one on our platform. They have 160-ish members. They have 100% JSS and have worked 626,000 hours and earned over $20 million, right? So like, this is obviously like the top level agency, but you can see just a little bit about how do we look at the best agencies and what are they doing right? You know, very clear about what they do. Here's what they can do in terms of development. different rates. And so obviously, like, you know what you're getting with this agency. They're going to do great work, and it's just, you know, the question of how much you're willing to pay for that. But like, this is really clear. So here's an example there. So let's look at job posts. I'm going to go back to this for 1 second. So now we've looked a little bit about profiles. We've looked a little bit at agencies. Now let's take a little bit of a look at job posts. And so when you're applying to a job and you start to say, okay, is this a good job? Let's take a look at that. And so here's the first one I'm pulling up here. So this person wants an LDAP browser and a mobile app. And I'd ask you the question before I talk, what story is this job post telling you? If you look at this, what can you start to think about this client? And so as I look at this, I start to look and my eyes kind of scan around, and I'm looking and I'm like, I look at like, okay, 25 people, 5 stars, 72 jobs posted, 45% higher rate. They've spent money on the platform. They've hired 37 people. Here's the average rate they've paid at 856 hours. So that's a pretty good average, right? And then here's what they're looking for. And then how specific are they in their job post? Very specific. They also say, at this point, we're only going to do phase 1, but hey, if you do well, you might be able to do phase 2. So there's potential future jobs, right? Now, do I meet the qualifications? And I'm going to ask myself, do I do that? This was posted 8 hours ago. There's less than 5 proposals. It's a pretty new job and not that many people have applied. I take that into consideration. And they have, here's some other jobs they've done, how much they've paid for them, and what the ratings were. So I'm scanning in that way. I'm looking, is this a job that I think that I'm qualified for? And do I trust that this client's going to hire and pay? And what have they done before? And then there's some, there's a lot of information to look at, but that's kind of what I'm scanning, right? So let's look at another one, right? I like to give a little contrast. So what story does this job post tell? What would you need to know before you took this job? And what kind of proposal could you submit to show that you're a good match? So I think it's really important here to note that in this last example, it's pretty clear that this person's had a lot of jobs. They've posted a lot, they've hired, they've paid, they kind of know what they're looking for. Now, you can start to make some assumptions here, and here's some of them. There's a lot of different, a lot of them. Number one, this is a brand new client, and maybe they don't know how to use the platform either. So they haven't verified their payment method. I would want that to happen before I did any work with them, so that you know that that money's going to be able to be paid out. They've only posted this is their first job and they haven't hired anybody, right? This job is about machine learning. It's fairly general and vague. And they've asked a question, right? They're interviewing 2 people in the process. They've had less than 5 proposals. Now, this is like kind of a yellow flag, right? Maybe they are new and they've got a lot of info to share. So what questions might you ask to get that information? And what would you need to know before you signed a contract with them? Because if you don't have a very clear set of milestones or what they're asking for, how are you going to deliver a good job for them? So this is not immediately like disqualifying, because sometimes there's an opportunity to attack a job like this because the client's new, and maybe you can convince them and teach them how to use the platform, and that will help you build a relationship with them, and they might keep hiring you, right? Versus someone who's hired a ton of jobs who might be a little bit more strict about who they hire, right? So these are all things to consider when you're applying for positions. So take that into consideration. So here's one more. So what story does this job tell you? Writing uncapitalized Arabic research. Hi, I need someone expert professional to write research in Arabic. Thank you. No grammar, no punctuation. So
I would like to point out a couple other fun things with this.
Yeah,
They're
please
looking
do.
for expert level freelancers. Note the budget, $30. And they really don't know what kind of project type, not sure. So there could be lots of things going on here. I kick it back to Drew. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, like, they've hired jobs before, right? So it's not their first job. They've done this before, and people are you know, people are getting paid. So you just, again, you want to ask yourself, is this worth it to you to start a conversation with those connects? What questions would you ask them to get the information you needed? And what would you need to know before you accepted a job? And is it worth it to you? If you can translate in Arabic, you might ask them, how many words are we talking here? If it's 100 words for $30, then, whatever. Like, you are going to make a decision based on your expertise on whether it's worth it. Because it might be worth it if they're very clear once you talk to them and can set a milestone in a fixed price payment, and you can do a quick job and start to build your JSS. It might be worth it. Or you might talk to them and they seem like they're asking for a lot for $30, and you're like, this is not a good client. And maybe they're just finding people who will take the job for less money or whatever. There are bad clients on our platform. Not every client is the same, and it is a marketplace. So what we're asking you in this, or suggesting or saying as a best practice is, you're interviewing your clients too, right? Just as much as they're interviewing you.
And I'd like to add too, what is considered a bad client for one freelancer could be considered a really good client for another freelancer. And I have seen this happen a lot. I've actually been too busy in a lot of circumstances where I've had a client where I've had really good communication with. I enjoyed working with them. I'm somebody who likes to really do consulting and come up with ideas and add benefit to a client's project that they might not initially know about or see themselves. Some of those contracts I got a little bit too busy for, and I reached out to other contacts that I have that do similar work and said, hey, can you take over this contract for me? I'm having to let it go because maybe the pay isn't high enough, I don't have enough time, combination, but they're really cool to work with. I have sent that project over to them, connected them, and the project fails. And the project has maybe failed because they didn't communicate in the same way. And so maybe the person that I sent it off to was expecting really direct feedback and saying, you do this, you deliver this, it's really clear, and there was no consultation piece. And so they were waiting for that direction from the client. Client just wanted somebody that was an expert to go make a decision and do it. So you have to know your work style a little bit as well, because what's good for one person might not be good for another. And sometimes these are diamonds in the rough. Like this, if you have the time to do that consultation and maybe teach them the platform, or maybe they were just too busy. They know the platform, they just slapped up something. They just wanted it to start getting proposals in to start a conversation. So know your style. One thing that does catch my attention on this as a freelancer, if I see something vague, what I'm looking for right away is, do they have 5 stars? Because if everyone's saying, hey, this is a really awesome client to work with, they're communicative, they provide the information as needed, all of those things, then right away, hey, it might actually be worth my time. In this case, I'm looking over here and it's like, ooh, 3.94. There's been 14 reviews, so that's not one person that's just had a bad experience. There might be more. Now it's starting to look a little bit more concerning to me. I might shy away from it personally. So it depends on, all of those different factors. And $30, that's not enough to make me shy away from putting in a proposal, because oftentimes clients just have no idea what this project is going to cost. And especially because they're saying project type, they're not sure. They just need advice on what the scope of the actual project is once they give you more details. So they might be open to negotiating price. length of the contract, how big it is, whatever. You just need more info there. Budget alone might not be enough to scare me away.
Love it. So again, we're hoping that this is telling you just some consideration points and helping you to dive a little deeper on how to think about this marketplace, right? Because it's complex. Not all jobs are the same. Not all clients are the same. You're not all the same, right? We'll talk about that in a minute. Turns out that everybody's a little bit different. So we just kind of summarized some of the questions for consideration, right? And we talked through pretty much, I think all of these. Factor in the logistics, the time zone, the rate, the ratings. What questions do you need to have answered? And, can you do the job that they're asking for? That's always a good question to consider.
One we don't have on here, and I'm just thinking of it now from a past experience that I had. I had a brand new client once and a really cool project. We were developing a training curriculum for an upcoming conference that they had in Australia. And client was good to work for. That was all well and good. The project went well. They were a new client on the system. When it came to releasing payment to me, I got a message from them and they were a little bit upset and confused, and I didn't really understand why at first, but then I realized that they had been charged in US dollars and they didn't realize that they were negotiating in US dollars. They made the assumption that they were negotiating in local currency in Australian dollars. So the project ended up costing more than they had originally budgeted. So if you have somebody that is new, just feel it out, make sure that everything's really clear. If you ever anticipate that there's going to be a little bit of confusion around how payment's going to be released, when it's going to be released, how much that is, who takes care of fees. And as freelancers, you'll know that you have a tiered fee. So 20% on your first $500, 10% on 500 to 10,000, 5% on anything over 10,000 earned with that specific client. So sometimes it does benefit to just have that conversation open and going back and forth so that the client really fully understands too. But you'll run into like silly little things every now and then. Everything is fixable with good communication and a good relationship, and it wasn't an issue. We ended up negotiating. I brought my rate down, a couple dollars in good faith, and we came to an understanding. It was fine.
Yeah. Communication is key. It's a good point, because I personally believe, this is my personal opinion, that communication is part of your brand strategy. And branding is what sets you apart from every other of the 14 million plus whatever freelancers on our platform. What is your unique selling proposition? What do you bring in your skills, your knowledge, and your abilities that separates you? And so that could be customer support in terms of how you are so good with the client and communicating and making sure that they feel great, or connecting with them, or you just deliver this thing so well, and it's always going to be done quickly and accurately and efficiency, whatever that is. But I still think in everybody's personal brand, again, personal opinion, high level of communication to the client, because you can do the best job in the world, but if the client doesn't feel like you communicated well or thinks that you disappeared or whatever, it might not matter, right? So one of the things that you might look at are what skills are in demand. You might have an adjacent skill. You might be working in this field and be able to pick some of this stuff up, and that might make you a little bit unique if you're doing creative writing and you also have ability to do technical writing. You can do both, or you can do creative writing and you've noticed that like a lot of people want stories about cats, and you're like, well, maybe I should develop a little bit of that. So we are trying to help with that by posting our in-demand skills every quarter on the Upwork blog. You can just search for quarterly skills index, and it'll show you what is in demand and what's coming, people have been searching for and hiring for on the platform. So this can just, again, help inform your personal brand a little bit and your unique selling proposition. And so this is just a quick little graphic on that exactly. So you're in your target market. How are you different than everyone else? What is that thing that allows you to be the best? And there are things in your control, right? There's your actual skills, and then there's your ability to sell, there's your ability to communicate, there's your ability, like your emotional intelligence. You can cultivate and learn all of these things, and then how do you market them? So in addition to that is your brand, like in terms of you, everything that you do. So are your skills up to date? If I look at you on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., do I see different pictures of you? Do I see different messages? Is one about you casual and one professional? Like what do we see that's visible to the public, right? You can have private stuff, but like, what do I see just as a general, if I'm going to hire you and I just make a quick search of all the social media channels, what do I find about you, right? And is that going to connect or comport with what you say that you do, right? How do you represent and talk about the field that you're in? Are you able to have a conversation or say, hey, listen, what's really popular in this field right now is this. The industry is moving towards doing this, and I recommend that you take that into consideration for future projects, or maybe I can help you do that, or I can speak about my field, right? So there's that kind of, again, it's you as a brand. What is the picture that you're showing other people? And I think part of that brand is making sure you ask for feedback, and you ask, and you are very communicative with the clients, because you want to just make sure that there's no uncertainty about what's going to happen on this contract. I personally, again, this is just an opinion, would rather over communicate to a client and have like, hey, listen, you're totally good. I trust you. You just send me something when you're done, versus, hey, I haven't heard from you in a week. Is everything okay? Now the client is in fear and they're worried that maybe you're not doing good work, or maybe they're worried that you've disappeared. You don't want to be in that position, right? Even though you might do a good job and you deliver good work, again, it's about the relationship. That's my personal opinion on that. Another way to make sure that you're in communication is responding quickly to all job invites, even if you can't do it. And you can set your profile to private if you're on vacation. Keep your availability up to date. If I see someone who's going to respond to me when I'm on the internet and I see like typical response time under 24 hours, right? That's great. I'm going to be pretty excited about the fact that I know that I can reach out to you and that you're going to get back to me within a day, right? I think that that's, again, something you can control, then it's really going to help show that client, hey, I'm ready to work. So as it relates to proposals.
Sorry, I was just answering questions. I just want to go back to that one for a quick moment. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get to as many questions as I can, but I'm listening to Drew in the background. In regards to response time, this is beyond integral. I might be a little bit OCD and a little bit obsessive, but my clients know that they can depend on me, even if I'm on vacation and even if I'm like marching myself up to Machu Picchu and I have connection and I get a message come in because I forgot to set my availability to unavailable, or because one of my past clients can still contact me, even if I'm set to unavailable because they have my contact information. I will do my best to respond. Definitely never leaving it over 24 hours because the world's connected. And there's probably maybe one day a year that you're not actually connected to internet at some point a day once you start getting in the world of online work. So just to amplify that even further, if you want to build trust with your clients, that's the way. Make sure that you're available. And that's not to say you need to work 24 hours a day. Set boundaries, but make sure that there is some point in time in the day that you're taking care of that for your business.
It's a good point. I mean, yeah, you're going to find your own balance, right? So another example here is one of the freelancers that I know. They don't work on Mondays. Like, period. That's just something that they're like, we don't work on Mondays. We don't want to work on Mondays. And so they talk to their clients and they say, listen, here's how I'm going to communicate with you. You can get me during these hours 100% of the time during this project, and making sure that that's okay. And they get that all set up, and they say, we'll work all of these other times. So, you're building your own business, and I think you can craft it the way that you want, but they are like, listen, we're going to be responding to you right away during all these times, but on Mondays, you will not receive a response from us ever. So, again, you can find your own way along the way. So, I'm going to talk a little bit as more of a summary as we look at proposals. We talked a little bit about looking at job posts, and then at some point you have to apply for this thing, and you've decided to apply. So once you've done the research and once you've decided, hey, I'm going to attack this job, right? I think as a best practice, then you should also customize every single proposal. Again, personal opinion, but it's okay to have a kind of starting point, right? Like a script, as it were, and then customizing it based on the questions the client asks, et cetera. You don't have to do it all over again every time. But I think that just sending out the same exact proposal to a bunch of clients is a good way to not get hired. That's my opinion. But when I read when people apply to jobs that I post and they've just had a copy paste, I'm not going to hire that person. Because if they can't take the time on the beginning to think about the questions that I've asked, then how are they going to do a good job for me? That's my personal opinion.
And there's another layer here that happens as well, because you've got a lot of clients that are brand new to hiring freelancers online, to working in distributed teams, to working in a digital environment. They may still have strong communication skills and computer skills and all of that, but it can take clients a little bit of a mental leap to build trust with you and to feel like you're really part of their team and contributing to their goals in their business, so that you can both advance yourselves and move ahead together. And that takes trust, and it takes relationship building, and that takes a lot more effort, especially from you as a freelancer at the start of that relationship, to be over communicative, to build that trust, to be available, to make them feel safe hiring you, working online, because it is just mentally different not seeing your work in an office environment or whatever the case is. So by explaining your work styles, by explaining how you communicate, when you're available, setting expectations, getting all of those soft skills type factors into your communication through proposal, through your first interactions with the client, through getting on a phone call or video call, that can do wonders, just even if it's 5 minutes. You don't even have to get out of your pajamas. You can do your intro video from the waist up, wear something nice, do your hair. But it's something that is personable, and it's okay to ask clients personal questions. I've got one client that I do writing with, and we do writing for digital nomad stuff, and she's building a website, so I do ghostwriting with her. But we touch base every now and then and see where we are in the world and, what's going on in life. And, it takes 2 minutes out of your day, maybe once in a month or two. But those types of things build that relationship that you'd have in an office environment. And that starts in your proposal, because you're starting a conversation in your proposal. It's like sending a cover letter or a resume or whatever, but it is one layer deeper, because you need relationship. You need to build trust. You need to show you have consulting skills. And that all comes in those interactions.
Nice. When a client skims your proposal, what makes them want to contact you, right? I don't have an answer for that, but what makes them want to say, I need to talk to this person? And I think that as you get started on that, I think that's a good place to start, of like, how do I get this person to say, I have to communicate with this person? This person knows the deal. Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, I think Des has done a great job of diving into all of these different pieces of communication. We can't say it enough, right? And then making sure that you say thank you for the opportunity and you ask for more work if they have it, or you'd love to do more work with them, and make sure you get that feedback, right? Ask for the feedback. Again, it starts right from the beginning. I want to get very clear about what is the expectation for this job? When are the deliverables? How are we going to communicate? Where are we going to communicate? What time zone are we going to communicate? When am I available? What are the milestones? Right? A million questions to ask, and that can happen in the interview or whenever. And that way, when you get towards the end of the project, you've got it all documented. It's all in the Upwork, app, and you can be like, hey, great. Like, now I've delivered on what you said. And then if for some reason they give you something else, you said, but here is what we agreed to. It's very clear, and then you negotiate that. So get as clear as you can, and that way you won't have, there'll be less chance of something bad happening down the line, which, sometimes clients will ask for more, or there'll be what's called scope creep, or they'll, change their minds halfway through, right? So you want to protect yourself from that. That happens, to just be really clear.
Adding to this as well, and we didn't build it into these slides, but if you take anything away from this webinar, you're running your own business and you do have to say no. And it can be uncomfortable to say no. It can feel like you're turning down an opportunity. But if you do not say no, if you say yes to everything, you're going to either get overwhelmed, you will get in over your head, or you're going to overpromise on something that you can't deliver on, and that's going to break a relationship. And I actually had to do it last night. I've got a wonderful client that contacts me maybe once a month for a little project. It's pretty well paid. It's not difficult work. We have a good relationship. He's probably sent me 10 contracts over the last 4 or 5 months like this. One of them I had to turn down because it was a larger contract and he was on a time deadline. He needed someone to do a sales pitch deck for him. I couldn't do it. And it really wasn't the type of work I was doing with him before anyway. So he found somebody new. Last night he got a hold of me. He wanted a report done, but my life is mayhem this week. It's freelance life. We're busy with work. Things are going on. It's end of quarter. I'm going to be moving houses and then countries in the next couple of weeks. I can't take that on. So as much as I would love to say yes to that client, I had to be realistic and say, hey, what's your deadline? I'd love to take this on, but it would need to be by X date. Do you have the time to wait? And he said, no, I need it by Friday. But he was totally fine with going and finding another freelancer. And that does not mean that he's going to stop working with me in the future. It just means right now this one didn't work out. So don't be afraid to set those boundaries. You won't lose your client forever just because they have another freelancer. If you've got a good relationship with them, that work will come back and it will continue to build. But you just have to be clear.
Nice. One little pro tip that you might try on if it works for you is, for no is I can't do this, but here's what I can do, right? Maybe I can't do this job in this contract, but if you'd like to make a new contract, I would love to start a new contract. I would love to do this as a different project, right? It's the no, but I can, I can't do this, but here's what I can do, right? I can't do this job now, but if you have future jobs, I'd love to do this. It's just this month is crazy, right? So that can help to ease the no a little bit. It's hard to say no, and this helps both sides. So really, I think what Des is saying is that the professionalism aspect, right, is being able to say no, in my judgment, is able to say or ask for help, or all these other things, is being able to have assertiveness and say, I'm running my business and I can't deliver what you're asking, right? You're asking me to do this. I can't do it this week. It's not going to be the product that I want it to be, right? And so maintaining that professionalism is how you build a business. It's how you put each brick down in your freelance business so that by the time that you're building this up, people can look and be like, that is high quality. Your JSS, your job success score, relates to that. Your comments, they say, delivered everything on time, great to work with, easy to communicate with. Those are the bricks of your business. So that you're building that business front that says, hey, this was built on integrity and honesty and being accountable. So I think that's that piece.
We did build it in. I jumped ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, with that being said, as you get started, again, like I said, on the marketplace, we're doing our best to keep it safe. But there are bad guys, bad people on every marketplace anywhere, in both physical and in digital spaces, right? There's pickpockets. There's people who are trying, like, you can set up the safest marketplace in the world. They're going to try to find their way around. So we've got teams working on this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you feel like something's a little weird and a client's asking you for something, like asking you to go off the platform, or asking for financial information, or to do something that's outside of our terms of service or free work, you know, like, these are things that you can bring to our teams, and we're here to help you. We want you to have the safest experience and the best experience you can on our platform. If we can't provide that, then you'll go somewhere else. So help us, and we hope that nothing happens. But, you know, again, the clients are just clients. They don't work for Upwork. They're on the platform. It's a marketplace. So you should treat that as such, and always have an eye of, like, is this a good project? Is it a safe project? Is their payment method verified? Are they, you know, trying to always communicate with me off the platform? Like, just always have those feelers, thinking about, is this okay? You know, and it should be okay most of the time. But, you know, it's just like when you're on the internet and you see a weird link. It's like, should I really be clicking that? You know what I mean? Do I really need to download this Acrobat? So I said it a couple times, and I think it's worth saying again. This end of contract is super important. You want to be sure to, you know, be thanking the client, getting feedback, like, how'd it go? Is there anything else I can do? I would love to do more work for you. This was great working with you. However that looks, you kind of find your own style of doing this based on the client that you have. See if you can use that as in your portfolio, right? If it's great, see what legal things you might need to do. Do you need to blur out images? What can you show? What can't you? Can you link the portfolio item to the contract? Like, these are, like, the end of the job is just, it's a huge action, you know, asking the client, please close this contract and provide feedback. Like, that's your business. You need that feedback. So this is a very, very, very important part that definitely helps to lead into other work. Hey, if you know anyone else who needs this, I'm here. I'm happy to work, right? So make sure you ask. So, do we cover it all? Do we get everything? Have you learned? I hope so. Apply it. Update your profile. Add some portfolio items. Bid for some projects today, right? Connect with other freelancers, and they can help you to build your business as well. That network can, again, like I said earlier, you know, you're running a hat shop, but someone else is selling bikes, and maybe you can pass them, you know, people who are looking for bikes, and they pass you the people that are looking for hats, right? That could be, you know, graphic design and content marketing, right? They might be somewhat similar. They could be like something totally different. Your client, again, you never know. They say, hey, by the way, you do graphic design. Do you know anybody who does mobile dev? You're like, I do, actually, right? So building your network can really, 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 really help. So if you have questions that weren't answered here, I hope we got to most of them. Check out our community, community.upwork.com. There are many very active freelancers who've done this before. They've succeeded in their field, and they love to answer questions and give their opinions, right? So this is users, and it's very active. So check it out. There's a lot of good stuff on there. If you want more of the technical side, if you just search for Upwork Help Center, you can look at a deeper dive into questions you might have about job success score or payment methods or whatever, and you can find that information there. Standard Upwork Help Center. And here's the thing: we have upwork.com/hiring, and that has a bunch of information on starting a business and clients and freelancers and our Upwork. So tons of great resources here on this lifestyle and how to run a business and things like that. So check all that out. So with that being said, thank you so much for coming. I hope you got some information that was helpful here, and that you can go out and attack